Good morning, I'm E.T. and I would like to discuss the rather distressing phenomena in Australia of domestic violence. It's rather sickening to hear how many people are involved with this rather horrible and degrading affair. But this is in regards to women and how they choose a partner. Lots of women these days get lonely, whatever it is, rush into relationships with men they do not know. Men who haven't had sex for a while will lash onto any woman and they will have sex with them, and the woman will give herself willingly to a bloke who will be charming at first because he'll want as much sex as he can get, and she has no idea of the psychology of this man whatsoever. So when the novelty wears off for her of being used as a sexual bimbo, eventually these men become aggressive because they're selfish men. Not that there isn't selfish women, there are. Very, very selfish and assertive women are also aggressive, and the two often combine to create a house full of aggressive, screaming violence between the people. But that doesn't give men any right whatsoever to attack a woman in any way. All I'm suggesting to women is, before they rush into letting a man sleep with them, have sex with them, they get to know the man for at least 9 months before. The old idea of having a chaperone or whatever with men is not old-fashioned, it's just downright security and safety. It's a precaution. The sexual mores of society come and go, from Roman times to now, from Greek times to now. They always go in fluxes and waves and changes depending on the times. But as it is now, women are putting themselves in danger by meeting men and within a short while, without actually knowing the man, let him make love with them, and then he will feel obliged, not a combination of obligation to that woman, and also of course she's there available for sex. These combined with the fact that these men may have been spoilt by their mothers or lived in an abusive family where fathers are abusive towards their mothers, those things combine to make men who, if they've had too much alcohol or drugs, or the diet is poor, or burdened with so much debt they can't psychologically deal with it. In fact, their debt they get maybe to please the woman. They may be working very, very hard and just to please the woman, which is also an act of aggression on the woman's part if they force in men, or they make men feel they've got to work harder and harder and harder to please them materially. Well, there's something wrong in the women, and these things combine in the end to create a clash between two individuals, or both maybe got their own internal aggression within either of them. But it comes to the fact that men, these men who bash women, are men who would bash smaller men. It's not just what you call domestic violence. It's a man who is a coward. I don't care whether they've got tattoos all over them and they can punch other men out and stuff like that. But basically, that hides a coward who will beat on men or smaller than themselves, but those men will also beat on women, because if the women were bigger and stronger than them, they wouldn't touch them. And that's a fact of the matter. Aggressive people are usually cowardly, bullying people who are being spoilt by their mothers. This is also another thing which is very, very important and ignored in Australia. There's far too much fluoride in the water. Mix that with too much alcohol and you lower the vitamin B12 the ability of the body to take in vitamin B12, the intrinsic factor, and you create what is a potential for psychological or disturbance. If this continues, if people have eaten enough carbs or whatever during the day, if they're disturbed and they've had a few beers, if they've disturbed when they come home by an aggression by a woman, they will react violently. Now, I'm not saying women should cook, but I'm saying if a woman, as soon as a bloke comes in the house, she piles a bunch of mashed potatoes and some gravy on the table, he's hardly likely to get up later and bash her. I'm not saying women have to cook, men should cook too, but I'm saying if you got a bloke who's getting a bit stroppy, as soon as he gets in a big pile of mashed potatoes, bit of meat, gravy, he'll sit there and he'll watch TV and probably drift off to sleep. That's what happens to these people who've got metabolic disturbances, which often result then in violence against the wife. So to women, I advise you this: do not rush into relationships. Choose very wisely. Check out a man when he's drunk. Listen to him carefully. Check out his background, his father and his mother. Make sure he has a good diet and he's intelligent enough to engage in long conversations without forcing you to shut up, which a lot of Australian men tell the women. They dominate the women by not allowing them to speak, because they themselves in this culture are not allowed to speak at work. They're dominated by their mates, and because they're dominated by their mates, they've got this sort of pathological anxiety building up with them. It's an angst, a build-up of angst of being told to shut up, told to shut up, told to shut up constantly by society itself. So those things build up to create a dangerous potential for men to act violently towards women. But it all gets down to women rushing in to have sex with men. They have no idea what they're really like. So the whole idea about sexual liberation is actually just creating a prison for women who now have cheapened their values, and men are taking advantage of that, and the results now are a rise in 2016 in domestic violence, when this thing should no longer be happening. And it's about time the government, wherever its recommendations, grew a brain, told the truth, and realised Australia's an aggressive country. It uses coercion on each other. The builders' workers use coercion on the builders. That all the system is about coercion, and coercion itself results in violence in society. Coercion on people into debt puts pressure on them. All these things feed in to create an underlayer of potential aggression. All aggression stems from previous aggression. All aggression is a congenital and historically inherited factor anyway. But I'll leave it at that. Consider these things. Women, be very careful about the men you sleep with. Do not give them, if they can't wait for 9 months to make love with you, aren't worth being near. They just want a root or sex, and they will use you for sex until you start saying, well, I've had enough of that porn stuff, and you get angry with them, and then they'll get drunk thinking they're not going to get sex with you anymore because they're selfish and peevish, and then you end up with a big row. They've got no use for you because they've got more love for their mates than they have for their women, and they smack the women in the head or beat them up or cruel to them. Anyway, this is just an unfortunate and very sad occurrence that the country needs to deal with on a higher level than just what it is. It's not a political thing, it's a cultural matter. The country of Australia really needs to face for itself, why is there so much aggression in this country? Otherwise it's the most beautiful country on earth to live in. Thank you. This is E.T. sadly discussing domestic violence in Australia. Bye.